Hey, everybody, how you doing? Well, that's good. Welcome to PHLY Flyers. My name is Bill Matz. I'm your director of fun and games for the afternoon. Joining me today, we have Philly's #1 hockey beat writer, Charlie O'Connor. And fresh back from Nashville, it is Broad Street Hockey's own Kelly Hinkle. How we doing today, fam?
Great.
Well, I'm not sure you're going to be doing great after our first topic, Kelly.
I know, I was lying.
I was lying. So I didn't even see this until Charlie showed up, and it totally changed the trajectory of today's show.
Yeah, I just said, well, we're leading with the Tocchet stuff, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, because you already had stuff in the outline about Tocchet, but it was from yesterday.
Yes.
When Elliot Friedman was saying,
Yeah, probably not.
I think he's probably going to go back to television.
I like that
and,
better.
you know, I've been hearing that the Flyers might not be as linked to Tocchet as we all originally thought, and that was where the discourse seemed to be heading until this morning.
Until someone met his number, it sounds
When
like.
Darren Dreger put out a tweet about an hour ago, I would say. It was a little after 11 a.m. and changed the narrative back to where it has been, I would say, for like the previous 3 weeks.
Yeah, so yesterday, 32 Thoughts comes out. And Elliot Friedman says, you know, I'm not really sure. This is his full statement on Monday's 32 Thoughts. The line I heard on Tocchet that made me laugh is he's not interviewing with teams, he's interviewing teams.
I also find that hilarious.
Me
but sorry,
too.
go ahead.
It's basically he's interviewing them more than they're interviewing him. So I'm curious to see what's going to end up here. I think Seattle had a lot of interest in him. I'm not convinced that's going to happen. I don't know about Philly. I think he's very high on their list, but I'm not sure what's going to happen there. And it's like, okay. And it's funny because I listened to 32 Thoughts yesterday, all but like the last 10 minutes, and this is where it happened. I read this on Broad Street Hockey, and hours later, the Broad Street Hockey story is updated. And the Philly one is interesting. I've always believed he was very high on their radar. But over the last few days, there have been some conflicting information on that, and maybe that is not necessarily true. The people that believe Tocchet returns to television next year on TNT, they seem pretty confident right now. He said that on a Vancouver radio show.
Right, because obviously they
after.
want to talk about Tocchet because he's their former coach.
So it seemed yesterday with these reports from the ultimate insider in Elliot Friedman, like, all right, he's going back to TNT. And honestly, I think that made a ton of sense. But then today, Charlie informs me, Dreger has a tweet out, and Darren Dreger says, strong indications this week Rick Tocchet will soon land another NHL head coaching job. Philly, Boston, Seattle believed to be among the top contenders. The Flyers want to be aggressive, good fit.
I think a lot of Flyers fans would disagree with one Darren Dreger about those last two words.
Here's the
at least
thing,
based on what I've seen on social media.
Here's the thing about fit to me. Like, forget what we actually think about Tocchet as a coach, and we'll get into that plenty, Kelly. Just hold off a second.
I'm cool.
Rick Tocchet is not 35 years old.
Nope.
Rick Tocchet is in his 60s.
It's early 60s, yeah.
The Flyers have very, very few good players. I don't see how it's a good fit other than he Flyer.
He Flyers, yes, that's the fit. It's the Flyers thing to do.
It feels like the Flyers thing to do. It also feels like the Flyers have lots of money.
Well,
and Rick Tocchet wants lots of money.
That's the other thing that blows my mind here. I get wanting top-end coach money, like $4.5, $5 million, whatever it is. Sure. Okay. Yeah, I want that too.
So would I.
But I want to make what Anthony Gargano makes. I am not Anthony Gargano. I have not been in this business forever and brought in and had the success that he had.
That's fair.
Rick Tocchet is not Mike Sullivan. And it's crazy to me that people are willing to pay him like he is when he's never won a damn thing. And any of these jobs he's going to that we're talking about, Philly, Seattle, even Boston, he's not going to win a damn thing unless he's there for 8 years. And no coach gets 8 years.
But we talked about this weeks ago, and this is
insane.
This is the disconnect that has existed and continues to exist between the perception of, I would say, generally speaking, online fans, not even just Flyers fans, hockey fans in general, and the insular hockey world. Online fans look at Rick Tocchet's resume and they're like, meh. Okay, yeah, he won Jack Adams. That's cool.
He's made the playoffs
but
once.
He's made the playoffs twice. One of those years was weird.
Yeah.
they look at it and they're like, okay, if I'm going to be charitable, I'll say that he's a decent coaching candidate. You talk to people in the game, and they are almost universally of the belief that Rick Tocchet is a top tier NHL head coach.
Unbelievable.
And that's just the reality. That is the reality of there's a reason why like Seattle apparently offered him a really lucrative contract, and he's just like, nah, I'm good. And it goes back to what Friedman said about Tocchet is interviewing teams more so than teams are interviewing him. That is how highly viewed he is in hockey circles. And every time it comes up, it's like, Charlie, you and especially Kelly, like your minds are exploding. But like I'm telling you, this is the reality.
I know. I believe you.
But why?
But why? That's my thing. Like,
based on what?
No, I cannot wrap my brain around.
There's no evidence.
Zero evidence.
Like if this guy
in
never
fact,
played,
the evidence suggests that he's merely fine.
Like it's not as if he's had one job and it went poorly, like because he didn't have a goalie or something. And it's like, okay, like Dave Haxtell, like, all right, there's reasons, and a lot of those reasons are his own. One, like he thought bad players were good and good players were bad.
But like, and eventually the hockey world came around on it. Like he's no longer coaching an NHL team now.
Exactly,
they eventually got it.
He had one job, and it's like an unstable environment. So like, all right, let's give him another try. Maybe he is actually good. Rick Tocchet's been at this a long time. And he's never had any success whatsoever.
Well, that's a little too far.
He's won one playoff round in 9 years.
I'm just saying, don't present it as he's never had any success. He coached he did a good job with Vancouver that 1 year. They won a playoff series. They won a lot of games.
What were the goalie numbers?
He won the Coach of the Year award. So you can't say he's never had success.
The last 5 Jack Adams winners, that means nothing to me, because the last 5 Jack Adams winners are not with the team they won.
And that's probably part of the disconnect, because to you that means nothing. To people in the hockey world, that means a lot.
Also, I need someone smarter than me to plot on a graph lines of correlation between Jack Adams winners and goalie performance. Like, I really need to see this, because I feel like there's a strong correlation. Yeah, it's a circle.
It's not a Venn diagram.
Can I do some coping?
The R squared is very high.
Let me do some
coping. That's a nerd reference.
Elliot Friedman is, I feel, way more of an insider than Dreger. Drager's like a Leafs insider for the most part, who gets his information from like Dave Nonis and like, I don't know, Morgan Frost's dad or whatever. Dreger is way more, I feel like, of a specific insider, where I feel like Friedman is more of like a general insider. So this is me coping and saying maybe yesterday Friedman was more correct than Dreger is, and maybe Dreger just wanted a little bit of retweets today, so he thought he'd put something out.
I think this speaks to the point Charlie, I think, made before we went live. Dreger, though, probably has some connections in TV. My guess, as Charlie put earlier, like, this is probably, TNT's like, he ain't staying.
Yeah.
Or maybe this is him trying to get more money out of TNT.
I guess it's possible. My read of this tweet was less about like, oh, the Flyers are definitely getting, which like, it's a really good chance they do, because it seems like they really like him. It seems like he's very high on their list. Maybe you can read into the Elliot Friedman info and be like, no, actually, it's a big smokescreen. And hey, if you want to go that route, sure. If it makes you feel good, go for it. But my big interpretation from this tweet from Dreger today is less like the Flyers are definitely getting him, and more that this is either directly from Tocchet or directly from somebody close to Tocchet, a message that he wants to coach, that he wants to get it out there that he probably ain't going back to TV, that this is a way to make it clear that he is serious about coaching. Now, Kelly, you might be right that part of it is a money thing.
Yeah.
Maybe he's trying to get more money out of teams. Maybe he's trying to get more money out of TNT. It's possible. But to me, that's my interpretation of this, that this is a like, yeah, all those things about me going back to staying, I guess, because now he is back on TNT, going back to television. Yeah, I'm going to coach. I'm taking a head coaching job. So like, line up your best offers.
Here's what I find curious about this report, is that it doesn't include Pittsburgh. And this I find interesting because it seems like the ownership of that team has made it clear that they want to squeeze every bit of juice out of the Crosby-Malkin era as they possibly can. And they're not going to like tear it down. They're not going to trade them. That they're going to try to compete as long as they have these guys on their roster. They also have a ton of money. Rick Tocchet's family, I believe, still lives in Pittsburgh.
Yes.
he won his things there as an assistant under Mike Sullivan. Like, I don't understand how Philadelphia is like just like perceived outside of it being like the Flyers thing to do, which it certainly is. How is Pittsburgh not like the best fit for this dude? Because as Bill said, he's not going to coach somewhere for 8 years. He's going to coach somewhere for 3 years like everybody else. If any of the teams are going to win anything, even like a round, it's probably going to be Pittsburgh.
Do you think so? 'Cause I think Boston more.
Well, yeah.
Because
I guess
Boston's best players
That's
are still
true.
in their primes.
I forgot about Boston, yeah.
Boston, but all the indications are Boston doesn't pay this for coaches.
That's
now,
fair.
Right.
That's fair.
Now, maybe the hockey men, because that's who's running it up there,
He's
like
a
freaking
genius.
Cam Neely, maybe, we have to have this guy, give him $8 million. Like, who the hell knows?
Right.
But all the indications, and I don't know what the hell goes on in Boston, but it's like, yeah, they don't really ante up for coaches in that way.
They generally don't.
Maybe Rick Tocchet is the exception because to these people, he is a freaking Albert Einstein of hockey. And he just hasn't put the little number 2 to make MC squared yet. But once he finally gets that opportunity, we'll all see the genius of Rick Tocchet. But like, they don't ante up. Seattle, well, who the hell wants to go there? They have no good players either. So Philly is it. Like that's what I see when I read this list, because it seems like Seattle's been brought up a bunch of times,
Yeah.
and he's like, "Yeah, I'm good on the Pacific Northwest."
Well, wasn't it Merrick who originally linked Tocchet to Seattle? Isn't there some sort of connection there?
Yeah, their president or GM,
Something like that.
Something I forget who runs it up in Seattle, but they're close with Tocchet, I believe.
Yeah, going back to Pittsburgh for a second. I mean, the biggest reason why I think Pittsburgh should want Tocchet, I think it's less about winning now, because I mean, look, yeah, maybe they can sneak into the playoffs.
No, I think it's delusional, but
Yeah.
I believe that that's what they want to do.
I think they've turned a little bit more towards the rebuild over the last year or so with Dubas. I mean, starting with the Gensel, trade. Yeah, Ron Francis. Okay, starting with the Gensel trade and things like that. To me, and this is what I've gathered from reading people in and around Pittsburgh, the reason why Pittsburgh would be most motivated to go for Tocchet is because Sidney Crosby had a great relationship with Sullivan. And it's been rumored, hinted, whatever, that Crosby didn't like that Sullivan is gone. And the easiest way to get Sidney Crosby back in your corner is to hire Tocchet, because Crosby loves Tocchet. Because they have a great relationship from when Tocchet was the assistant coach in Pittsburgh, when they won their cups, and he thinks the world of Tocchet. He has an immense amount of respect for his coaching ability and whatnot. So that, to me, would be the biggest reason for Pittsburgh to throw a boatload of money at Tocchet, is just to keep Crosby happy.
Should do that.
They should.
should
Sidney
really do
Crosby,
that.
I've always said I respect the hell out of. Definitely don't want to fight him on sight. You should keep that man happy at all costs.
Yes.
Yeah,
He's the most
100%.
important boy in Pittsburgh. Charlie, question.
Yes.
Because you talk to the hockey men.
Okay.
None of them talk to me, and I don't talk to them. They don't know who I am.
They probably know who you are.
I doubt it. But have you ever asked, like, even like off the record, and I'm guessing that you, as a journalist, can't answer a question that someone gave you information off the record. As soon as that left my mouth, I was
Just
like,
don't
you can't
say
do
their
that.
name.
But anyway,
I can give.
have you
gist.
ever asked, so why is everyone so high on Rick Tocchet? Or have you just like absorbed that information and just been like, well, that's what they think, so that's what they think? Because I am like, I want to be really clear, because people who are pro Rick Tocchet seem to think that the anti-ness is just, he played for the Flyers and I don't want them to, or me, people with my opinion, don't want them to hire another Flyer. That's too much of a Flyers thing to do. It has nothing to do with that. Like, I literally don't care that he used to play for the Flyers. It is affecting my opinion 0%. I just think that the Flyers have the opportunity to pick the coach that is going to shape this young team into what will hopefully be a perennial playoff contender. And I would like that to be an exceptionally good coach. I have zero reason to believe that Rick Tocchet is an exceptionally good coach. He has proven that. Not at all. The evidence that I have to look at suggests that he's a mediocre coach, a fine coach, not an actively bad coach. Just like a guy on the bench who maybe can get some things out of certain guys. Certain guys like him because he's like a cool players guy, whatever. But like, I look at Mike Sullivan and I'm like, okay, that guy's a good coach. And there's a lot of evidence to suggest that he is. Rick Tocchet does not have this evidence behind him at all. And I just don't want the Flyers to pick a guy because they like him and he's nice and cool and we're home. Like, that's not a reason to hire a coach at this stage of the game for the Philadelphia Flyers. And even if they were like a fully formed team and they were ready to go on runs, maybe then I could be like, all right, maybe Tocchet. All right, like maybe. But I just don't get it now. And I just don't get, like, based on what is this the best option for you, Danny Briere? I just don't get it.
Okay, so here is my best understanding of why he is viewed so highly in hockey circles. And I think really what it boils down to at its core is that he gets, because he, number one, and this is true, because he is a really good guy, but also because he's very active in like hockey circles in terms of communicating and talking with people. And he always comes off as a very knowledgeable, intelligent, like you can even see when he's on TNT.
He's great on TV.
Like he breaks down plays, he does analysis. Like he is the kind of guy where when you talk to him, when you deal with him face to face, you come away thinking, man, this dude is smart. This dude knows hockey. This dude knows what he's talking about. And I think what it boils down to at its core is that because of that, he gets the benefit of the doubt, and what you view as failures get subconsciously framed as positives. Like, perfect example. You guys, and by you guys, I mean you and Bill, generally speaking, entirely dismiss the Arizona tenure as, yeah, he didn't do crap. That team was bad. They made the playoffs one year, and the year they made it, that team, that wasn't even real playoffs. It doesn't matter. The way it's viewed in hockey circles is that situation was an absolute dumpster fire. Ownership was bad. The team was bad. And he got the absolute most out of an awful situation. That team was competitive when in reality, they should have been finishing third, second, last from the bottom. So that's number one. The Arizona tenure is framed in hockey circles not as a, yeah, he made the playoffs once and it wasn't even real. It is, now he did actually a really good job there given what he had to deal with. Then the Vancouver situation, whereas you look at it as, yeah, he won coach of the year 1 year, but that's not a real award because goalies. It's viewed as Vancouver was an underachieving team for years before he took over. He showed up. They got good. He won coach of the year. The underlying numbers, despite the fact that, yes, they had a crazy high shooting percentage, and yes, the goaltenders were very good, the underlying numbers were also still good. They were a good team. They were maybe not as good as they looked by their record, but they were a good team, actually. That he turned that team around. He turned a team that was stuck in the mud into a team that could win. And then this past year is looked at as, yeah, the two-star players hated each other. No one could have handled that.
Right, so because we like Rick Tocchet, we will amplify the good things and just hand wave away the bad things.
But they would say that you're being unfair because you're coming at it from I hate Rick Tocchet, so every tenure he's had, I look at it in the most negative way.
With Rick Tocchet.
I don't think there's a negative way. Like, this isn't a negative perception to go Arizona, his finishes 8th, 4th, 5th, 5th. Vancouver, 6th, and then the year he finished 1st. Great, way to go.
Well, for the first year, he took over like 2/3 of the season. And they played well after he took over. You look at the win-loss record; it's quite good.
It's 20-12-4. He was okay. A 611 win points percentage. That's pretty good. And he did a decent job.
Shouldn't any professional hockey player who played in the league for over a decade be able to break play down on television? Like,
you'd be surprised.
Biz does it.
You'd be surprised.
Todd Fedoruk is excellent on the radio.
Yes.
Are we going to pretend that like Todd Fedoruk is some kind of like hockey savant mind because he can break down plays on the radio? No, he's just played hockey for his whole entire life. So he knows how the game works. And someone in the chat asked, like,
is
how
Fedoruk
can
a candidate, I wonder? Maybe we should hire him.
Maybe we should hire Todd Fedoruk. Someone asked, like, how can you be so anti-Tocchet but pro-Shaw? The thing with Shaw is, like, I don't have evidence that he's a bad head coach. Like, I don't have it.
He could be a boat.
He could be a boat. Bradshaw could be a boat. What I do have evidence of is Bradshaw being an exceptional assistant coach here.
True.
Him taking over as head coach for 5 seconds and the team just popping off and all the guys saying that they like him. So, like, those are the facts that we have about Bradshaw.
True.
I would be more willing to take a chance on maybe him being good than Rick Tocchet, in my mind, definitely being just okay. That's where I am on that.
I prefer the unknown to someone who's been a coach for 638 NHL games, and it hasn't gone all that well.
Honestly, I think that like my number one preference would be Ferschweiler with Shaw as an assistant still.
Yeah, that's
like
fair.
I think that would be the best plausible outcome for the
Ferschweiler's
Flyers
in my top tier.
at this stage of their development as a team. That's all it is. Like I don't personally dislike, I don't know Rick Tocchet, but he seems like a cool guy. He's probably a lot of fun. I'd probably like him as a person. Like I just don't want him to be the head coach of my hockey team today.
I just think that and this is coming from someone who Tocchet is not in my top tier. I do think that regardless of whether he's a good coach or a bad coach, I do think he is overrated in hockey circles. I think that is true, and I think he is overrated in hockey circles because everyone in hockey circles knows him, so therefore they can personally speak to how smart he is because they have existing relationships with him, and therefore they know that Rick Tocchet's a genius, that he's a hockey genius and he's great with people, and they just that leans into their evaluation. It has an impact. It has an impact on their evaluation of his abilities as a head coach. But I also think that there is a bias coming from your perspective where you are looking at everything he's done in the most negative light possible. They might be looking at everything he's done in the most positive light possible, but I think you're looking at everything he's done in the most negative light possible. I
just think if we had a candidate with 638 games of NHL head coaching experience and a .516 points percentage over that time, and he wasn't the dude who put up 100 points and 200 PIMs, no one would think he was the best coach ever.
Exactly. That's the thing.
I think it all gets back to like this kind of player is the exact kind of guy we want to have coaching, so he's good. And there's no evidence of it.
If this was one of those,
maybe he is good.
That's the thing, I don't know.
No evidence.
If this was one of those summers where like there was like 2 dudes available to take a head coaching job, because as we know, there's only like 35 dudes that are qualified for this job.
Obviously.
If there was only like 2 of them available, maybe Rick Tocchet is the choice that you make because you don't have a better alternative. But I just think that there's better alternatives for the Flyers right now. And I would like to see them go in a direction that I think makes more sense for the team at this stage of the game. That's all it is.
Yeah, that's fair. There's a reason why Rick Tocchet isn't in my top tier.
Yeah.
All right, before we go any further, we have to take a quick ad break. Got to lead it off with Ashley Furniture, because at Ashley, it is on. You can shop the Memorial Day sale now at Ashley, and you can save $100 off of every $1,000 you spend. Plus, get amazing savings on outdoor furniture, and that's not all. You can get up to 60 months special financing and have your furniture delivered locally for free. Plus, with your qualifying purchase, you can get a free gift, and you always save on top brand mattresses and get free local delivery, setup, and removal. Best deal in the game. They bring it to you. They put it together, and then they take your old stuff away. That's why you have to shop at Ashley, South Jersey, and Philadelphia, and visit ashleyfurniture.com for more information. Financing with approved credit, minimum purchase required. Some exclusions may apply. See store for details. And Kelly, did you know? This is the absolute best.
Oh no,
Kelly, did you know that after 12 hours after a shower, the average man's grundle odor level was a 5 out of 10? Grundle.
In the copy.
It's what it tells me. I'm allowed to say it. It's what they're telling me. Well, with Mando, the average With Mando, the average grundle odor level is a 0 out of 10. What is Mando?
Amazing.
Mando is a men's deodorant brand that's hyper-focused on keeping every aspect of a man's body smelling fresh and clean. Listen,
I certainly appreciate that.
whether it's your pits, your belly button, your butt crack, your grundle, whatever it might be, you got to use scents like the Bourbon Leather, Clover Woods, Mount Fuji, and the Pro Sport. Listen, we all know.
Sport.
We all know the Pro Sport. You know, we all know summer, especially maybe this time of year for us bigger guys. We're gonna be sweating out there, and maybe you're gonna be hitting Sea Isle, hitting the OD, something like that. You're dancing with a fine young lady. You don't want to be smelling. You don't want to be smelling like you participated in this no shower happy hour. Just because you didn't shower doesn't mean you can't smell great, and that's where Mando comes in. So make sure you check out Mando as I have exited the copy here, and we're getting to the call to action. Make sure you check out Mando, and check out Mando's starter pack. It's perfect for new customers. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, a cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice like the mini body wash or deodorant wipes, and free shipping. And as a special offer for listeners, new customers get $5 off a starter pack with our exclusive code. That equates to over 40% off your starter pack. So use code PHLY at shopmando.com. That's SHOPMANDO.com. And please support our show and tell them we sent you. Smell fresher, stay drier, and boost your confidence from head to toe with Mando.
Okay, so first off,
hit that like button if you like that read.
I was gonna say we need a like spike here. Let's try to get to at least 175. We're gonna clear 200 by the end of the show, but let's get to 175 right now. Secondly, Kelly, I really thought you were gonna be able to hold it together until Bill said butt crack, and that was like the moment when the floodgates opened up, and it was just there's no chance.
I can't remember the last time I heard the word grundle. I'm glad we're bringing it back.
I gotta be honest with you. I am so proud of what I get to do for a living.
You're so good at it. Honestly,
this is tremendous.
Amazing.
All right, so do we have more? Do we need to debate Tocchet more? No, do we just wait for him to get hired tomorrow?
If and when he gets the job, I'm sure we'll have lots more to talk about.
He's going to get the job at 105 today is what's going to happen.
I've
all right,
accepted it.
So let's get to the original topic of today's program. Jake O'Brien, as we continue.
Jake O'Brien.
Jake.
Not Jay.
Period.
Jake.
O'Brien.
There's a K in there.
Jake,
and an E, actually.
Jake O'Brien.
Not the same guy.
A potential...
Not born in the same country.
A potential selection for the Flyers at 6. He is a 6'2", 170-pound right-handed center. He won't be 18 until June 16th. So one of the younger guys in this draft.
And that's a positive.
That was one of the first things that really stood out to me because he was the OHL Rookie of the Year 2 years ago. And his first year in the OHL, usually you go on elite prospects and you see like a guy's second year, he really breaks out in the first year. It's like he played half the games and did all right, didn't score a ton. He put up 64 points in 61 games his first year in the OHL. He did that at 16 years old. That's really impressive to me.
It was.
And I think that's our first important distinction here between Jake and Jay, other than them not actually being related at all, not even from the same country, is Jake has been putting up big numbers in major junior as a young kid, not just dominating in high school, and we're hoping it translates. Like, I think that's a distinction there. And this past season, 98 points in 66 games. That's 66 assists, an assist per game in the OHL, then another 11 points in 11 playoff games. Super productive, and a lot of the scouting reports I checked out today, one of, if not the best playmakers in this draft class. So if you are of the Charlie persuasion and want someone who's just going to hook up Matvei Michkov with all these awesome passes, this might be a guy you're looking at. What do you think about the playing style, fit, and all that to start things off, Charlie?
Question, Charlie, before you get into it?
Sure.
I think I read somewhere that a lot of prospects people were saying that they think that Desnoyers is probably the only guy that is like a guaranteed center. Do you feel like that's a true thing? Or not? I know Desnoyers was yesterday, but I was just curious. Like, do you think that that's an accurate representation of the rest of these kids that are playing center right now?
Yes, even if I don't think it's fair.
Okay.
To me, like, for example, I think this is, again, just my opinion. I think it's ridiculous to think that Michael Misa won't be a center.
It does seem ridiculous to me.
I watch him play, and I see a guy who has the smarts, has everything he needs to be a center. Now, look, maybe if he gets drafted by San Jose and they decide that he's better served as winger to Macklin Celebrini because, hey, that's just great. We'd love to have him playing on the same line as Celebrini. Sure, but I think he's a center all day. As for Jake O'Brien, he definitely has the center look. I think his question is more like, is he actually going to prove to be that good? Now going back to Jake O'Brien, because I feel like now we're putting the cart ahead of the horse here a little bit in terms of our evaluation of him. To start out with Jake O'Brien, it's worth pointing out that this is the first guy we're talking about who isn't in that clear-cut second tier. Yeah. This is a guy where I think the general consensus with him, at least in the public sphere and based on what we've seen from guys like Proman and Wheeler and McKenzie, he is a step down. You have that second. The first tier looks like it's Matthew Schaefer and Michael Misa. And then your second tier is looking like Anton Frondel, James Hagans, Porter Martone, Caleb Desnoyers. O'Brien is not in that tier in the public sphere. So a pick of Jake O'Brien right now would be probably, at least based on public tiers, a little bit of a reach. So let's say that up front. Just like Roger McQueen probably would be, even if the McQueen stuff is more about injury concern than raw skill, and the fact that he only played 20 games this year, so you're projecting more. There's more risk there because you didn't get to see him in his draft year play that much. So that aside, Jake O'Brien is fascinating to me because, so let me put it this way: when I started doing my prospect watching in February, March. I started out with Matthew Schaefer. I'm like, okay, this guy's really good. Started out, and then Michael Misa. Okay, this guy's awesome. Watched pretty much all the other guys, the guys in the second tier. Martone, Hagans, I loved. Frondel, Desnoyers. But there was a gap of guys where I watched them, and I could see it, but they're not necessarily the guys who I'm super excited about. Where it's Desnoyers, I can appreciate him, and the more I've watched, the more I've liked. Frondel, I've talked myself into more over the last few months. I watched Jake O'Brien. I was not expecting to like Jake O'Brien's tape as much as I ultimately did, because I am naturally skeptical of the late risers, the guys who all year it's they're 15th, 16th, and then a month or two before the draft, you start seeing people tweet out I don't know, he might go top 5. The scouts are falling in love with him. And I kind of roll my eyes at that because my thing is are you just convincing yourself of this? Does he really have the pedigree? Kind of like my view of Brady Martin. My view of Brady Martin is is he actually this good? Or are you guys just falling in love with him because he hits a lot and because you need to get excited about someone at the end of the day? I watched Jake O'Brien and you immediately get it. He was a guy who, from the jump, I really liked watching him. He checks a lot of my personal boxes of what I want in a center prospect. I think what ultimately keeps him a tier down, even for me, from the guys we've talked about so far, is he just comes with more risk than those guys.
Yeah.
But the things that he does well is very exciting. He is a prospect I can say I'm excited. I may be more excited about Jake O'Brien than I am about Caleb Desnoyers, even though if I was a general manager of a team and the chips were down, I probably would take Desnoyers over Jake O'Brien. Jake O'Brien as a player excites me more than Caleb Desnoyers does.
Yeah, that's I saw a lot of he's a project. He's maybe gonna go in that, like Charlie said, that third tier. But I heard one scout be he could be this year's Beckett Seneca, where it's, man, we're taking the risk because we really like the upside. And if he is a bit of a project, we'll wait on it because we think it's there.
I do think that his momentum has been blunted a little bit because Brady Martin has now become the guy who scouts are losing their minds over.
Now,
there's usually one guy like that, and it seems like it's Brady Martin now and not Jake O'Brien.
And, I did see a lot I liked in Jake O'Brien. Really good playmaker, really good at the power play, not just with the skill, with the hands, but like seeing open guys that maybe I didn't see before the pass was made. So, somewhat like we talked about with Michkov, like, wow, you saw that play and like I'm up here and I didn't. You know, like how did you see that at ice level? Like a little bit of that, but I think the risk is in the skating.
Okay. That's fair. His skating
really short strides for a tall guy.
It's true. He does kind of do the pitter patter.
Yeah. And the pitter patter, I like that. Just not all that fast. Like saw him get caught from behind a few times, just like on the breakout, like couldn't get going right away because of those like shorter strides. And I don't know if this is fair. Maybe he just does it because he can, and he can learn to play with more pace as he becomes a stronger skater. I feel like you're taking tall Morgan Frost at 6 if you draft him.
I will say there are some similarities in terms of Jake O'Brien plays a high skill game.
Yeah.
He plays a high skill game. He is a pure playmaker. He is a fantastic passer. Like that is the exciting part about his game, his vision, his instinct, his ability to see lanes, to see guys before they get open, but they're about to get open, and then he leads them. He's so good at that. But there is absolutely a pace concern. Not necessarily his play without the puck. I think he does have jump. He does battle.
Yes.
And I'll get to the battle because that's something that concerns me as well about him a little bit. Not the willingness, but the other part. But with the puck, he does have that tendency to slow it down a bit. And this goes into one of the big concerns about him across the board, which is the idea of him being a power play merchant. He is really, really good on the power play. He scored 50 of his 98 points on the power play this year. And we talked about it on the show. That's not necessarily a bad thing at its core because the Flyers need a guy who can drive a power play, who can find Matvei Michkov on that far post for those tap-in goals. And that could be what Jake O'Brien can do. But there is a bit of a concern that maybe, he is a carry the puck through the neutral zone real slow because he wants to watch and wait for all his options to develop. And that just won't fly at the NHL level, especially at 5 on the power play. You can get away with it. At 5-on-5, maybe not. That's a concern. One of the big concerns surrounding Jake O'Brien is how good is he going to be at 5-on-5? Is he going to be just a guy who can find those options when there's a man up, rather than when it's 5-on-5 and everybody's back checking and chasing it down? But man, the passing is good.
So good.
He is such a good passer, and it is fun to watch his tape because of the plays that he can make. Like he makes plays that make you stand up and just go, holy crap, this dude has high-end skill. And I will never be opposed to taking a swing on high-end skill. You bring up Morgan Frost as a downside option. That is a downside option.
I mean, Morgan Frost did have pretty good passing and playmaking
especially
skills
at the junior level.
The junior level.
At the junior level, his highlight reels, they would pop. So that is a concern. That said, it's not like Morgan Frost is bad. Morgan Frost is a perfectly fine playmaking middle six center. And if your downside is a 40-point playmaking center, like that isn't the worst thing. It feels bad because we've spent the last 5 years complaining about Morgan Frost. But Morgan Frost is not the worst floor option for a guy.
No, I just think
at 6, it's kind of a bummer.
This is such an important pick, and I don't know who's like. If I did, I'd be running the team and we'd be great. But I don't know who's going to turn out.
Yeah.
But I just fear of that sort of a reach at 6. We need a center, and if that's what we get at 6, which is likely to be the best position we're drafting in for the rest of this march towards relevancy again, that's not a good outcome. And maybe he's way better than that. Maybe he's Dylan Strome. And if he is, cool. He's just had a point a game season. But I fear when I look at him, man, you do that circle back thing a lot. And maybe he just does it because he can. And as he gets stronger as a skater and stronger overall as a player, he'll be more effective playing at a faster pace. But right now I'm I'm not positive your playmaking on the move is going to be strong enough for you to be a point a game guy in the NHL.
Here's the thing, I feel like the way this is shaping up with this draft, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Charlie, it seems like whoever we pick at 6 is going to have something that needs fixing.
Sure. Yeah.
And-
I mean, well, everybody's going to have things that need to be improved.
Something that needs to be improved, and also like probably a scary low floor for a guy that would normally get taken that high. It just seems like a very weak, the tier 3 drop off seems to be pretty significant.
I mean, the absolute worst case scenario, I guess, for O'Brien is he ends up being a dude who racks up tons and tons of points in the AHL and then gets called up and isn't able to translate. But I do think that the actual floor is Morgan Frost. I think that is the floor. That said, and these are important factors for this. O'Brien's a lot bigger than Morgan Frost.
Yes.
He's 6'2". He has room to bulk up. He has room to get strong. He's going to need to get stronger if he wants to be. Because this was actually one of the big negatives that I saw watching, not the highlight reels, but O'Brien's tape. And I think this can be fixed. But we've seen, when I explain what this concern is of mine, I can tell you exactly why I believe it can be fixed. Because if this guy could fix it, then Jake O'Brien can fix it. But it is a concern because it's a major problem. I think back to Bobby Brink. And John Tortorella said about Bobby Brink, it's not even that Bobby Brink is small. Bobby Brink has no idea how to check. And I'm not talking about like big blow up hits. I'm talking about like going into the boards, into the corners to win a battle.
Coming out with the puck, right?
Jake O'Brien has no clue how to check. He has no idea. His idea of checking is basically, I'm just going to kind of lean on a guy. Like, it's bad.
Yeah.
And I think he can learn it because if Bobby Brink could learn it, Jake O'Brien can learn it. But his physical game, and it's not that he doesn't try. It's not like he's allergic to contact. It's that he just doesn't know how to do it. And
that seems like a teachable
He's
skill.
gonna need to work on it. Like, but he's coming from a very low baseline.
Right.
He's not coming from like, well, I'm a like 30 out of 100 on checking. Games I watch, he's like a 5 out of 100 on checking. Like, he needs to get so much better there, and he can, but it's going to take a lot of work. So that was something that jumped out at me in terms of looking at his weaknesses. Other weaknesses, more of an average skater. Maybe not as low on his skating as you are. I do think that he can get better at it as he gets stronger because he needs to get a lot stronger. He needs to bulk up in the upper body and the lower body. I think that can improve from there. I don't think he's ever going to be a burner, but I think he could be good. I think he could be a, above average NHL skater if he really works on bulking up the lower body. The shooting, the shot has gotten better this year.
Yeah.
But he still doesn't shoot much at all. I think he had like 130 shots this year, which like in juniors for like a guy who might go top 10 is very low.
Has the puck all the time.
Yeah. He is a passer. That is what he does. And that might tick off some Flyers fans who always want guys to shoot. I mean, especially on the power play.
A lot of extra passes where he's like,
he's going to overpass
like
sometimes. He will.
He's in the slot, and it's, he saw a guy on the back door for a tap in, so he made the pass. It works, but it won't always.
He is going to overpass, and it's going to tick some people off. Now, for me, that's not as big of a deal because I feel like I'm more than the average. I am more favorably predisposed towards pure playmakers because I think, passing the puck into the net via just like passing it to a tap-in is like just as cool as shooting it past the goalie. I gather that a lot of Flyers fans strongly disagree with me based on how many Flyers fans just want the entire team to be filled with goal scorers. So I get it. That's just somewhere where I'm going to naturally disagree. I like the fact that he's a playmaker. I also like the fact that he's a playmaker because and we've had this debate about Frondell versus Hagens, I see Michkov at his core to be more of a goal scorer than a passer.
I was going to say, like, now we have a Michkov for someone like this to pass
yes,
to.
I like
in
the
the past,
idea.
We didn't have a guy.
The concept of Jake O'Brien passing to Matvei Michkov, especially on the power play, is very, very attractive to me because I see a guy who will be able to find Michkov in his spots and let him just bury it and score a ton of goals. So that I like, but I can see why some people might watch Jake O'Brien and then watch Anton Frondell and be like, how can you think Jake O'Brien is better than Anton Frondell when Frondell has this amazing shot and he shoots constantly and can beat goalies clean, and Jake O'Brien won't shoot unless it's a wide open net.
Yeah, like if he's on a breakaway, he'll shoot.
Yeah.
Maybe not. All right. Before we wrap up our conversation today, got to take another quick break. All right, it's time to tell you about one of our newest partners here and one of the coolest new partners that we've brought into PHLY in some time. It's our friends at the Hall of Fame Bets app. We've all been there. Listen, your parlay's one leg away, and then a relief pitcher gives up a walk-off bomb in the ninth, and you are just absolutely heartbroken. It's happened to all of us. The HOF app is built to fix that. Started by two lifelong sports fans who also happen to be Ivy League grads. It's not Charlie. HOF makes parlay research smarter, faster, and data-driven. This isn't, the buddy group chat full of just the hot takes. This is full analytics. It's a full analytics engine. The HOF app gives you access to advanced stats, historical data, and powerful tools to help you bet smarter. The app is built for the everyday sports fan, so it's easy and intuitive to use. You'll get an idea of your parlay's chances to hit and identify weak legs so you can weed them out before you place your bets. And that's the coolest part. You can... After you put in all your legs, you do your research, you use the analytics, it is super freaking easy to use. I know, analytics, it's an analytics engine. That might be difficult. It isn't. I figured it out, and I'm not all that bright, quite honestly. It's really, really cool. And after you use the app to research your parlay, you can use one click and then put that parlay in with your sports book of choice. It is absolutely outstanding. And our listeners right now get a 7-day free trial and 50% off their first month. Just download the HOF app and use code PHLY at checkout. That's right. For a limited time only, our listeners not only get a 7-day free trial, but they also get 50% off their first month when they use code PHLY at checkout. Just download the HOF app on iOS and Android, or visit hofbets.com, enter code PHLY, and you're all set. HOF, that's right. It's really cool, actually. I would highly recommend checking this out. And now, I got to tell you about our friends at Lucy. That's right. What is Lucy? Lucy is 100% pure nicotine and always tobacco-free. Lucy comes in breakers and pouches. The breakers are nicotine pouches with an extra surprise. Each pouch holds a capsule that can be broken open to release extra flavor and hydration. I just got some wintergreen breakers. Real big fan of those, the 4 milligrams. But whatever your persuasion, you got to set yourself up with a subscription and have Lucy delivered straight to your door. Let's level up your nicotine routine with Lucy. Go to lucy.co/PHLY and use promo code PHLY to get 20% off your first order. Lucy is a 30-day refund policy if you change your mind. Again, that's lucy.co/PHLY and use code PHLY to get 20% off. Here comes that fine print. Lucy products are only for adults of legal age, and every order is age verified. Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical.
Okay, so before we exit the Jake O'Brien
I
talk,
want to do a little more O'Brien. Yeah.
I want to give the quick pitch for Jake O'Brien as a good option at 6. Because I feel like, and primarily I think it's because, Bill, you opened the conversation with negativity, so we sort of went down the path of negativity.
I really like his playmaking and everything. I just fear that at 6, he isn't the best option, and if some things don't go exactly according to plan, and, like we said, the downside of moving down is, all right, well, we don't love the one dude who's left in this tier, so we're just going to reach for a center, and then here's this, and he just has some flaws in his game that obviously everyone does. Matthew Schaefer has flaws in his game that are going to need working on, Sure. But, I just, at first, was really, really intrigued by him as a prospect, and then the more I watched, I was like, I don't know. But he does, if he just gets stronger and becomes a better skater, my fears are a little bit alleviated. But right now, that's what I'm seeing.
And there's a reason why he's not in that generally accepted to be second tier, because he has more question marks. But the elevator pitch for him is, okay, number one, he has an elite tool. Compare him to Desnoyers. Desnoyers, we talked about yesterday, he does not have an elite trait. Jake O'Brien has an elite trait. It is very elite. His passing and his vision is elite. And that sets him apart from some of the other guys in that top tier because he has that one tool that you look at and you're like, yes, he is fantastic at that thing. He has a calling card. That's number one. Number two, he's young for his draft year. And this is a low-key big thing. He's a June birthday. The younger you are in your draft year, generally speaking, and this is not just a hockey man thing. This has been proven out by like draft research. Generally speaking, the longer runway, developmental runway you have, as opposed to a guy who was, say, like, I hate to bring it back to him, but Nolan Patrick was old for his draft year. Nolan Patrick was a September birthday. He was basically about as old as it gets for his draft year.
He was like 3 days away from being in the previous
draft. And the concern was like, well, what does that say about his upside? Might have said a decent amount. That's one of the concerns, I believe, about Porter Martone. Porter Martone is old for his draft year. Jake O'Brien is young for his draft year. So while I do agree, the skating needs work, he needs to get stronger, these are things that are real. Presumably, he has a higher runway because he's younger than a lot of the other guys in his draft class, a lot of the other guys he's been playing against. The Flyers did last season draft another young player with their first-round pick in Jet Luchenko. Jet Luchenko was an August birthday, so Luchenko was younger relative to his draft class than O'Brien, but they have liked guys who have that bonus. Number three, I do watch him and I do see a center. Now, I guess it's possible that he's just not that good, but I see a guy who naturally, slides in low in the zone on breakouts, who supports the play, who has the willingness to stay down low. I see a guy who looks and feels to me likely to stick down the middle. And this is another thing. If you are someone, and while I'm not on the high end of caring about this, it does matter. If you are someone that thinks it's important for your centers down the middle to not be small.
Yeah.
Jake O'Brien's 6'2". He's 3, maybe 4 inches taller than James Hagens. He's taller than Anton Frundell. He's probably going to check in, I would guess, a little bit taller than Desnoyers. But if you are, say you like Hagens. Say you're like, I love the playmaking aspects of Hagens. I like the idea of putting a playmaker next to Michkov because I see him as a goal scorer. That would be the ideal. But I just hate the idea of having, a guy who's maybe going to check in at like 5'10 and a half next to a guy in Michkov who doesn't crack 6 foot. Well, here's Jake O'Brien for you, who is maybe just as good of a playmaker. Not the skater that Hagens is, but just as good of a playmaker, if not maybe even a little bit better. And he's bigger. So you've got a bigger guy who has elite playmaking tools, who has a long developmental runway, and yes, he has things he needs to improve, but because he's a younger birthday, he maybe has a higher likelihood of improving his skating than, say, like a Martone, who is older and also needs to improve his skating. That's your elevator pitch, I would say, for Jake O'Brien, why you should, I think, at the very least, be intrigued by the idea of him as an option at 6.
I do think he's a legitimately good prospect. Like, I don't want to be negative about it. It's just, like, yes, he's 6'2", but 170. But that does kind of get back to his age. Like, he is a kid.
You would think he will bulk up. Now, maybe he's never going to be like 6'2", 210.
No.
But he could be 6'2", to 190, 195 when he's done developing.
Like, I feel like, and like about his skate, I feel like I could teach him to skate better. Like I feel like I could do it because I see it.
That seems like one of the most fixable things.
Like,
it is and it isn't. I mean, wasn't for Matthew Strome. Some guys can fix it, some guys can't.
Like, it's just like, hit leg day hard and like use your long ass legs because you're 6'2" to push yourself harder than.
What I will say about O'Brien skating versus, say, Desnoyers skating. I watch Cal Desnoyers skate, and I see a guy who I don't see anything. He's a little stiff in his edges, but if you're talking about straight line, if you're talking about burst, I don't see any reason when I watch his strides to think that like he can't get significantly faster just by getting stronger in his lower body.
Yeah.
Whereas with Jake O'Brien, he does have that pitter patter where you're like, you might have to actually change his stride style to get the most out of him, and that's tougher. That's tougher than just like putting the hours in at the gym.
Yes, and like I just there are some of the scouting reports pointing out like the crossovers he uses, and listen, there's some fast players who skate that way, like Jack Hughes.
Sure,
but like he's already fast,
and he's a freak.
Yes, he's also exactly a freak of nature. All right, What else do we have today? Right, the super chats. I always forget. And get us. Oh,
We made it 202. Good job, gang.
It was like 190 something last time I looked up, and I was going to yell to get
job,
us over
gang.
200. But
Very
here
impressed.
we are, over 200. So let's keep going. All right, it is time for today's super chats. All right, let's start off with our pal Gary B.
Gary B.
Feeling low. Hopefully, PHLY fam and Flyers news can cheer me up. Well,
Gary,
it depends on how you feel
Gary.
about Rick Tocchet.
I was going to say, Gary, I hope you enjoyed
love
us
you,
yelling
Gary.
about Rick Tocchet.
Yeah.
Hopefully that improved your day.
I think
Really
people
hope so.
like it when we yell at each other because we don't
Probably.
do it all the time. Yeah.
We were really
Mad
yelling.
about
We
my
were,
Leafs
No,
I don't think we were
too.
yelling at each other. We were just
Yelling
yelling,
at hockey
about
sports.
Rick
Yeah.
Tocchet.
Yeah, yelling about sports. I've
what
heard
we're
about that
doing.
show
Yeah.
before.
That's great.
I wonder if you can still download that somewhere.
Probably
somewhere.
Yeah.
All right, from Purple Crayon. I have to leave early, but still like McQueen at 6 or otherwise. I do want to do. I think
like
we're
the
gonna do.
ballsiness of it.
I think we're gonna do McQueen tomorrow.
Oh, I'm
Okay.
excited
I
to hear
think
that.
I want to get into some for Purple Crayon, honestly, for our pal Harold here. But I liked the O'Brien discussion today because it was like our first dive into that third tier.
Yeah.
And after last year's draft, I kind of feel like, and not that Danny Briere and the crew were like, oh, we got to outsmart everybody, but they seem to have a wider array of options than even going back to Michkov, because like people were afraid, and Danny was like, "I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm taking him." Well, and like it turns out, it's
He was
because
right.
it turns out it's because Matvey was like, "You draft me."
Yeah, right.
like I want to go there, so you're gonna take me, and he's like, "Yes, I will do that."
Yeah.
But like after last year's draft, and maybe after the Bonk pick, where we thought there was some better, like they just kind of have a wider array, and they trust their scouts to maybe expand the list a little bit more. And I like doing that today. And maybe they do the same thing with McQueen. Maybe they do the same thing with O'Brien. I don't know. But I like expanding more out to that third tier because they may as well.
And I do like that, like, it seems pretty clear that Danny Briere's draft board is not just like a list of consensus picks in the order that all of the experts are saying they should be in. And I think that's a good thing.
As long as he's right.
Yeah, you got to be right, but you're not going to be right if you don't take a swing every now and again, see what happens.
Well, I mean, yes, true. That said, the flip side of it is I believe the Eagles drafting got significantly better when they just started taking the guy that everyone loves.
Yeah.
Where it was like, before they're like, you know what? Let's take this wide receiver who's projected to go 15 picks later because we're the smartest team. And then it was like, nah, let's just get Devontae Smith because he was awesome in college. Nah, let's get Jalen Carter because he's ridiculous. And then they won another Super Bowl.
Like take all the guys from Georgia and Alabama. Like, oh, the guys who've been heavily recruited and like possible NFL prospects since they were 8. Let's take them.
Yeah.
Like, but you get paid to be right. You
true.
don't
You
get
do.
paid
You
to like, oh yeah, well, Nolan Patrick, he was the consensus #1 a few weeks ago. Even we got to take him. It's like, well, how'd that go?
And right. Yeah, right now I get to believe that Danny Briere is correct because right now all of them are still boats. Like I don't know what any one of these children is. So right now I can just pretend that they're making good choices until I'm proven
Matvey
wrong.
Michkov worked, and we haven't seen anyone else.
Exactly.
So we're 1 for 1.
They must be good.
It's fair. It's just like, sometimes when you're presented with the dude from TCU and Justin Jefferson,
Take the good one.
Maybe take Justin Jefferson.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe take the
just
good one.
a thought.
I just,
And the great part is Howie listened to the criticism and now is seemingly every year taking the Justin Jefferson.
So do you think in this draft, like at 6, there will be the one guy consensus you have to take and then nothing but third tiers left? Like, do you think that is a real possibility here?
Yeah, unless somebody reaches on Brady Martin. Yeah, I think so. I really do.
Maybe we should just
And
do
it might
Brady
not even
Mar-
be the Flyers.
I said this yesterday. Maybe we should just do Brady Martin because they're going to draft him.
Is he the worst case scenario for you out of this like list of players that seem to be top 10?
I need to watch more tape,
Okay.
but at this point, yes, because
okay.
I think he is.
He's just big boy smash, right?
I mean, he's a little bit like to put it in Kelly terms. He's like the Rick Tocchet of potential picks at 6.
The signing.
most
He's like
Flyers
the
guy.
most Flyers
yeah.
guy.
Yeah, okay.
I think we're going to do Martin Friday. I want to do him at the end of the
Well,
week.
one of these days we may have to cover like the coaching hire.
We'll see. All right. And before we wrap up, it's overtime. Head to allphly.com if you were watching on TV. We missed your buzzer last week, Hinkle.
I'm glad you
it was
like it.
missed. All right, let's hit this next one here from Josh White. Ran into Charlie at the airport in November and shared my cancer story. Thank you all. Your show helped me in so many ways. I'm 1 year in remission.
That's amazing.
Well, that is awesome
Josh,
to hear,
congrats,
Josh.
man.
Heck yeah,
So happy to
Josh.
hear.
So happy to hear. Really glad that I'm going to say that we cured it.
I mean, I'm not gonna say we didn't.
Josh, that's an awesome story.
I'm pretty
It was
sure
your
Josh deserves most of the credit here.
Josh, the doctors,
60% Josh, 40% us.
modern medicine, the doctors,
yeah.
Josh, but us too. Really, really appreciate you sharing that with us, Josh.
Yeah, that's
And
awesome.
Thank you for watching.
Absolutely.
Really, really
Thank you so
appreciate
much.
it.
That makes me
All
so
right,
happy.
from Linden49, I don't want Jake low ceiling O'Brien at 6.
See, I don't think that's fair. To me, I think like a guy with his elite playmaking, I don't think you can call that a low ceiling player. If anything, I see a high risk player.
I'll tell you what, high risk, I think, is a better way to put it. And I'll tell you what I think bodes well. Like, because maybe I was overly negative on a guy who is pretty freaking good. The fact that his shot went from to, he doesn't take a ton, but to pretty freaking good.
Yeah, it's pretty good now.
Yeah, that I think bodes well. It's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
That like in 1 year, from 16 to 17, he improved a pretty significant aspect of his game.
Yeah.
Now he could stand to shoot more, but as Charlie said, like, if he's passing to Matvei Michkov, I don't care if he takes 0 shots.
Yeah.
Like,
As long as Michkov scores 50 goals, we're
and
good.
I do think I think fans in general just like guys who shoot the puck into the net.
They do.
Like,
yeah, goal scoring is fun. It's the most fun thing when a goal is scored.
Peter Forsberg sets up, a 40-plus goal season for Simone Gagne, and it's like, this dude needs to shoot more. It's like, does he? Does he though?
But I guess what I'm saying is that I rarely
Yes.
thought that way about Peter Forsberg, but I think a lot of fans did. Because
Yeah.
I personally, and I'm not right. This is more of a stylistic, personal thing. I like playmakers, I think, more than the average, maybe even more than the average hockey fan, but definitely more than the average Flyers fan.
I think there's a lot of leftover. We had Giroux, who's a great playmaker. So the only really good player we ever gave him was basically light him. So there was nobody to shoot the puck.
It's true.
So that was real. That was annoying, and I think there's a lot of leftover
Residual frustration.
Yeah, that's the. But I don't want to say low ceiling, but I do think high risk is the better.
I could see a world it's hard for me to see a world where guys like Frondell and Desnoyers aren't at least good.
Yeah.
I could see a world where Jake O'Brien, it just doesn't translate.
That is high risk. Okay, next one here from what's that? Jaguar Philosopher.
Jaguar.
Jaguar.
Are we doing that?
Jaguar. Yeah, that's how I like to say it.
All right, why not?
Jake O'Brien has an elite gruntle, a great fit for the
Take
team.
your word for it.
Yeah, you know what, Jaguar Philosopher? maybe you know.
Jaguar.
Maybe you know.
Jaguar.
He's a child.
Another one here from the Jag. Thoughts on raising the minimum draft age? I'm for it.
It's kind of hard to know what a 16-year-old is going to turn
It
into.
is.
I'm ambivalent. Whatever. If you raise it to 19, we would just adapt, and probably draft picks would be a little bit more certain.
Yeah.
That's the thing is, I think there is more risk. It is crazy to me. Jet Luchenko, how did he legally sign a contract? Did his parents have to
parents
co-sign?
would have had to sign
He's
it, right?
17 years old when he
when he
signs
signed
his
the deal,
ELC
yeah.
last year.
Yeah.
How is that legal?
I don't know what Canadian contract law is.
But it's in America.
Maybe he's allowed in America.
But Jake
Anybody
O'Brien,
who gets
at
that,
least
props
Jake
to you.
O'Brien will be 18 when we draft him.
Yeah.
Last year, Jet Luchenko didn't turn 18 until after rookie camp. It was kind of freaking insane. All right. I think it would make things more certain, but I don't care.
I don't know. The gambling's kind of half the fun, isn't it?
Yeah. It's
If they did it, I would very quickly adapt, and I think there would probably be fewer draft busts.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's something you have to do.
I wonder if more guys would go to college. It's I can't go,
Yeah, they'd probably go
why
for
not?
1 year. For 1 year,
Yeah.
at least.
All right.
I mean, it's going to change now with the INL. More guys are going to go to college, period.
And you can play juniors and then go to college.
Exactly.
now. All right, from Matthew Stevens. We know the Flyers plan on taking the next step this offseason. Do you agree this is the right time for this next step? Why or why not? What should they do this offseason?
Well, so I
I think they're taking a small step this season.
Yeah.
I still think that next offseason is going to be the big one.
I would agree. I think, Matthew, you might be maybe misinterpreting what they've said, because I do believe that they want to. This is not going to be a spin your wheels off season. I think they want to do things. I think they want to make some ads. I think they want to improve the goaltending. I think they're looking at this as, well, we can add things earlier than maybe we thought we could because we've traded guys like Farabee and Frost and we've opened up some cap space. But this is not the go offseason.
No.
It's not. And they've made that very clear if you've really paid attention to what they've been saying. So don't go into this offseason thinking this is going to be like this is the win now offseason, because if you do that, you're going to be disappointed when you see what they ultimately do.
But I do think they don't plan on being a bottom 10 team again.
I agree with that.
And while I'm like torn on if it's the right thing for them to actually do, because like it'd be nice to get Gavin McKenna. I personally don't want to watch another season of 82 meaningless games.
I would prefer not to.
Like that would be a real bummer for me personally.
Also, once again, like there's
don't wanna watch
nothing
it.
the Flyers can do to be the worst team in the league.
That's where I'm coming from.
So the likelihood that even if it's like this year again, where they're just not good because the goaltending stinks or whatever the reason is, the likelihood that we get Gavin McKenna is pretty much slim to none. So like, let's all chill with the idea that there's something they can do outside of trading Matvei Michkov to get Gavin McKenna.
Yeah.
Also, even if they are the worst team in the league,
Yeah, might not get him. Exactly.
look at what just happened. The team in 10 just moved up. Look at what happened when the Flyers won 22 games and got James Van Riemsdyk. Like,
I think if your view is, I want the team to be bad for another year because I want them to get a top 5 pick, and I think they need another one of those to be competitive, I think that is a reasonable stance. If your view is they need to be bad to get Gavin McKenna, that's insane, because even if you're bad, there's a better chance than not you're not getting Gavin McKenna.
Right.
If your whole plan is to get Gavin McKenna, that's dumb, because you're probably not going to get him.
at this point where they are, I just don't see it as realistic.
It would be cool.
It would be real cool.
It would be awesome.
Listen, if they like add a goalie and that goalie also stinks and this is a bottom 10
maybe
team
it'll
again,
happen
like
again.
great, we're gonna be doing Charlie's favorite thing, spinning tankathon
Friggin'
every day.
tankathon.
But I just don't
When I
see
learned
it.
that Charlie hated Tankathon, I felt a little bit betrayed, honestly.
I understand. It's just like
It's just pointless.
I'm playing the hand of dealt here, Charlie. Got to fill an hour with something.
There's a reason why I didn't complain about it while we were doing it. I waited until we were done, and then I could express how thankful I was that we were done spinning the stupid computer wheel.
I got to do something.
Let's get a real wheel next year.
Let's get like a. I wonder if
real
we're able to
fortune
weight
thing.
it so that the
I
odds
don't
are
know
the
how that
same.
works.
But
Yeah.
we should get an actual lottery apparatus
We need
That's
balls.
with the balls.
oh man.
balls.
If we're doing that again, I'm just like, dear Lord, I'm gonna need another show just to have something fun to talk about. All right, another one here. For this one's from Adam S. Who is everyone's favorite pick at 6th overall and why? And who would you be least mad about the Flyers reaching for?
Are we
Thanks,
at,
guys.
are we at the point where we're ready to do this?
Right now,
it's still early.
Right now, Frondell is my guy, but that is based on limited. I think I'm going to end up loving Brady Martin, even though I know I shouldn't. This is going to be like one of those toxic relationships where it's like, but I love him anyway.
Yeah.
But that's.
I went
We're
in-
not there yet, but right now Frondell's my guy. But we've been doing this for a couple of days.
I want Hagen's to fall, but I don't think that's going to happen, A. And B, this is based off me reading other people's opinions. So, like, honestly, what do I know?
Yeah, I think where I'm at the moment, Hagen's is probably my favored of the possibles.
Do you think the Islanders will take him?
No,
No?
I don't think they will.
people seem
We,
to
we
think.
can't know until they have a GM.
That's the thing. They don't have a GM, so
So
who knows?
all the speculation is like complete conjecture.
Yeah.
No one knows. They literally don't have the person who is going to be making the decisions. We have no clue what they're going to do. They have no clue what they're going to do. Is it possible? Sure, it's possible. I don't think it's likely because the scouting consensus is so much in favor
It'd
of
be a crazy thing
Schaefer.
to do.
And if not Schaefer, it better be Misa. I don't think Hagen's in that realm anymore in terms of the way the scouts are viewing it.
The pictures of him in the pajamas will not be valuable enough.
I don't
to make
think
that
so.
pick. Yeah.
So Hagen's right now, I would say, is my preferred option at 6. And honestly, Jake O'Brien probably would be my, like, if they're going to reach on someone who is not in that second tier, O'Brien would probably be the one I would be least concerned. I would be concerned, but I'd be the most open to like, yeah, I can convince myself of this being a good move. Especially if like, say it's a choice between like him and Martone. I could convince myself like, all right, they just want a center. Like, all right, like maybe I don't totally agree with it. I probably still would go Martone over O'Brien, but I could at least understand the thought process of like, yeah, we just want to solve the center problem because we're never going to be picking this high again. I would get it.
All right, from Adrian Franklin. In Danny, we trust. He has a limited amount of my trust thus far.
He has some trust.
I haven't seen enough happen positively yet. But I've agreed with the plan overall thus far. But this draft will go a long way.
I'm a big, dumb, hopeful idiot, and until you give me a reason not to trust you, I trust you implicitly. It served me well in my life over and over again. But that's where I am. I trust him until I have a reason not to. So far, he hasn't done anything like actually bad.
Egregiously bad.
Yeah.
I feel like he's had no failures yet.
Yeah.
We just haven't seen
No
the results.
outright failures.
Like we just haven't seen the results of a lot of things.
There are people who want to say that the Gauthier trade is already a failure. I'm not ready to say that yet. It could be. But
Might be.
so far, I would say the jury is still out on whether Jamie Drysdale will ultimately turn out to be
Also,
close to the player they hope he can be.
Could still get Rossi this summer, just saying. Because that was the other rumor, right?
That was one of them.
Rossi, there was something going on in Montreal that involved at least Arbor Jack Eye. I have to believe there was more.
That would have been the one.
Glad they passed up on that one.
That is not a good one.
All right, and from DA Flyers, man, I keep forgetting the show is on. Here's $5 as penance.
Thanks, DA Flyers,
Thank you,
man.
DA.
Nice.
Of course, we are on every day, Monday to Friday, noon to whenever we finish around 1 o'clock, as we do have a tendency to go to overtime quite often.
Oh, before we end the show, I have to bring this up because it's very funny.
Oh, God.
Did you guys read the news around the Islanders that like Lou, while he's been fired, he apparently is still hanging around?
Oh, God.
It's so good. It's so Arthur Staple yesterday reported that basically there are GM candidates who are skeptical of taking the job because apparently the ownership still wants to keep Lou around as an advisor to the owner.
Of course they do. He helped design the ring.
Lou
boy.
will never leave. It's so funny.
Just go
he
be
will
old,
never
dude.
leave.
He's got to keep his kid's job. For, you know,
That's true.
there's
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
the 60-year-old Nepo baby. Dude's collecting Social Security off his dad's name still. I
love it so much.
He didn't get fired. They're just not renewing his contract. He's still
God.
under contract. Like, he's hanging out.
Does this mean still no beards then?
It's very possible.
Come on.
Lou is never going to leave. He's just going to be a spectral presence.
He's going to be the next
Ghost
commissioner.
is gonna haunt.
Oh, God. Don't give them any ideas, William.
He's going to be a 90-year-old commissioner. All right, and that is all the time we have for you on PHLY Flyers today. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for hanging out. If you haven't already, what the hell are you doing? You got to hit that subscribe button. Follow us right here on the YouTube. Hit that like button as well, but make sure you hit the reminder bell so you never miss a live show. Like I said, Monday to Friday, noon to 1-ish, and probably an emergency show because they're not going to wait. They're definitely going to do the coach hire
After
on
1
an
p.m.
off day or something. So make sure you're subscribed and have those notifications set. Follow us on Twitter at PHLY_Flyers. And follow the podcast wherever you get those. Just search PHLY Flyers. That's it for us. I'm Bill Matz. That's Charlie O'Connor. That's Kelly Hinkle. Till tomorrow, let's go Flyers.
All city like the mayor.